So now we'll go ahead and split the character in half. So I'm going to right-click on the character. I'm going to select Edge, doing this right from the perspective view. I want to pick one of the edges that's running up the center of the character. So I'm just going to pick any one of these at random. Doesn't matter which one, but as long as it's going perpendicular in the center. Hold down the Command key. I'm going to right-click. Going to Edge Ring Utilities, Edge Ring, and Split. So that created an edge loop through the center of the character, which now I can cut this thing out and duplicate it and put it on the other side. Don't know why I didn't do the eyes first, though. Let's undo that. Let's just finish out the eyes real quick, because I can just do the eyes and then I don't have to duplicate more than once. Okay, sorry, changing the order a little bit here. Let's work on the eyes here. So the eyes, before we split it, let's do this before we split it. No, screwed all that up. Let's start over. So, okay, so we're going to split the character in half. Let's do that. Now we're going to have to do this maybe a couple times, so don't get frustrated. I'm going to select one of the edges in the center here. Okay. Command, right-click, Edge Ring Utilities to Edge Ring and Split. Puts the edge loop through the center, and now I can cut this character in half, duplicate it, put it on the other side. So we want to do this from faces, and the easiest selection is from the top view. So I'm actually going to maximize my top view. I'm going to change from edges to faces. I'm going to select all the faces on this side that doesn't have the arm and the foot, but the foot's quite large, isn't it? Again, it's funny looking. I'm going to just quickly rotate around my perspective view, just make sure that I got the faces I expect. Looks good. I can go ahead and delete that. So that's just a regular old delete on the keyboard. I'm now going to go into object mode. So we've been working so far this whole time using componentry for the most part. I'm going to skip back into object mode. Okay, so I'm selecting this now as an object, not as a component. I want to duplicate this object, so I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate. Now I want to reverse this object. So this throws a lot of people off, but it's a pretty awesome thing that you can do. So check this out. I'm going to go into the Scale X. Okay, so notice this thing is going. Let me get the move tool. You can see this is the X direction, and that's the positive direction X. This would be the negative direction of X. So watch what I'm going to do. I have a duplicate object selected by default because I just duplicated. In the scale X, I'm going to put a -1. Okay, let's zoom back out so you can see what happens when I do that. So that's a -1 scale X. So when I hit enter or return, you can see it flips over to the other side. So now I have two pieces. It's pretty awesome. So now two pieces here. Notice when I select one side, it selects. When I select the other side, it selects. So the first thing we want to do is combine these two pieces so they're one piece. So I'm going to select first one side and hold Shift, select the other side. Up at the top here, there's Combine. Click Combine. Now the object is seeing itself as one object, but it still is separated in pieces. So just to show you, if I grab a vertex and I move it, you'll see I can create a hole. Okay, so they aren't actually connected yet. Okay, don't do that step, just stay in this thing. So what I need to do is now merge all the vertices that are on top of each other. That's in Mesh, to Edit Mesh Tools, Merge. Merge that. That was one of the reasons why we want to make our character large, because when we merge vertices that are too close to each other will merge together. It's kind of a bummer. Okay, so now we have an object that's merged, but there are a couple problems. So if you look down here in the crotch, there was um, some parts were close enough to merge, but some had holes in them. And I kind of do this on purpose, hoping that I get the holes just so that I have a hole to fix. Sometimes the holes will be deceptive. You have to be careful. Some of them will look like this, where they're actually not a hole, but they're, I can't, let me change the tools here so I can show you. They'll cross over like this, okay? And you don't really, it's harder to see it because it's not actually a hole, but it is sort of like a diamond shape. So you have to watch that on your character. You may see it this way, or this way. So just keep your eye out for that, okay? Like that, negative one, so I'm gonna leave that on. So the way we fix that is actually this really great tool, and I haven't really brought it up yet, but here's that modeling toolkit. There's a lot of really great options in here, and you can see that combine, for instance, is here, separate, smooth, here's extrude, bevels and bridges, add divisions. So there's a lot of different tools in here that are really nice to use, symmetries, and there's a lot of stuff in here that are common. Selective types, so notice I can go through different selective types of faces. I'm not sure what this is. This is, oh, UV selection. So a lot of different ways to select. It's pretty awesome. So I want to be in vertex mode, and what I want to do is I want to use this target weld, which is a great way to connect different pieces to each other. So this is a little bit more of a complex modeling method when you have different pieces that are coming together and connecting. So this is a lot of times people model separate objects, separate legs, separate torsos, separate arms, everything, and connect everything later. I think of that as a little bit more complex of a method, and when you get ready, you should try it. The one thing we want to watch out for is just what it's actually choosing in terms of where it's going to connect. Is it going to merge to the center between the two vertices selected, or is it going to merge to what is the last vertex selected? And I'm using center. So I'm just going to click on one vertex, and you see you get this kind of yellow line. This line kind of goes over and connects, and the green dot in the middle is actually where it's going to merge to. It just merges right over. It's really quite a simple tool. Again, just drag over. Those ones look merged, so I'm not going to worry about them. You just want to be careful, like that one was trying to merge to the back or something, and just, do the merge. And just whenever you do any merging, just really try to zoom out and take a look and see how does it look. Cool. So there's a basic model of a character ready for rigging. Now, in previous classes, I've spent more time on the face, but honestly, I think that you're better off with kind of a basic face like this because we're not getting into the complex models quite yet. In the 160 class, we do a little bit more of that. For the complex models on these characters, because we need them to talk and stuff, so we get a lot into the face and the mouth. We also do blinking and stuff like that. But for us, since we have such a coarse model, it's better to spend a little bit of time just kind of working on the different pieces of the character that you want to kind of update. Like, maybe I want to kind of move this in a little bit just because it's, maybe you want to show a little bit of a bump there. Same with these vertices. So there are some of these symmetry tools like Object X, which is kind of nice. So if I click on one of these, I can just edit both at the same time. It's kind of nice. Sometimes these tools can be a little bit confusing. When you do this, you can't really use scale. It doesn't see it as seeing 2, it sees it as 1. So you still have a scalar type change here by having the move tool. So you can kind of come through here and just start editing your vertices and taking your time and making these things look more like you want. These ones seem a little bit tight. Kind of try to use this shape here, this area. didn't do anything on the legs yet, so there's no symmetry on legs. Always, so sometimes they're on the other side, so we didn't do a ton of that. But for the most part, it looks pretty good, and really set up for a good smooth mesh. So again, just so you can see kind of what a smooth mesh looks like. Now, I would normally be modeling with the number 3 on, so you could see kind of the smooth version of the character. And you can see it's a little more muted in its shape because it's more rounded. And if I were going to actually smooth this out, I probably would be a little more exaggerated on some of these, like just really to show more of a definition, right? Like these could be a little more whiter, and it wouldn't look so strange here. But when I go back into shaded or just a regular coarse model, it looks a little bit thick. So you want to watch out how that changes. But for us, the coarse model is where we're after. So I think that's where I'm going to stop you guys, this video anyway. And then what I'll do is I'll start adding more videos for creating more complex areas, like maybe working down here, adding another edge loop here, working on the legs, maybe making the legs a little more nicer, maybe adding another edge loop, maybe 1 or 2 in here to get the legs a little more defined. Feet were pretty huge, so I might want to edit those. Okay. All right. Let's end there. Let's do one more save. File save scene as. And this last one's going to be mesh 5, so that took 5 saves for me on this one. We'll say return. And so now this character is ready for the rig, and that's going to be our next step. So the next videos for you to look out for is the first one is rigging on the leg. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks.